The following roster and modding were provided by a willing individual. All remarks are meant for enjoyment and educational purposes.
Welcome back to the class, everyone. Today we have another mod shaming video for you all. As you can probably tell from the intro, as a reminder, this is the series where we go in and we look at real rosters where people submitted a team that they wanted to be reviewed, either for the fame or for the shame. So with that being said, let's get to talking about Starkiller. So Starkiller is probably one of the most premium teams we've hit. I guess we hit Malgus somewhat recently too. So this is when things are going to start to get really nitty and gritty when we're looking into things. So we're going to start off with Emperor Palpatine because he is going to be the lead for this team. There are other leads you can use with Starkiller. This is one that our user has chosen, and to be fair, it is the most common. So that's worth noting. So he's got a lot going here with Palpatine. I'm gonna say I don't love most of it. So with Palpatine, for me, he has one crucial job. He needs to facilitate attacks from Starkiller, and the dude needs to survive, because if he doesn't do either of those, if he doesn't do one, he can't really do the other. So that being said, we have some interesting stat takes on him. He has an offense primary for here for the cross. Make it protection. The amount of protection that Palpatine is going to gain, both from his own unique Zeta, which you do have, so that's super cool, as well as Mara Jade, is going to be really stinking high. But if you're having offense in these, or even health in these other stats, you're really losing a ton of viability in that area, especially in 3v3. If you really want Palpatine to be in a place so where if Rey doesn't even have a debuff on her, she can probably tank, or he can probably tank a Whirlwind even without it, in case she cleanses because of a Datacron or something like that. So I definitely would like to see improvement in that area. So health here, again, protection, and quite honestly, if you can get his speeds in the right place, protection, just full protection. Says, I don't really hate the potency. There is an argument against it because Mara Jade is going to go first and apply tenacity down and pretty consistently keep it out there. So he doesn't really need potency. As a reminder, tenacity down is essentially negative 900,000 tenacity or some stupid number like that. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. So the extra potency here really isn't warranted, although it's not a totally dead stat in case someone has a cleanse, which we did just previously mention. So don't hate that. His speed is at an okay limit, but we'll get here more importantly why it would be nice if you could get it a little bit higher, but there's actually a better solution to that when we look into Starkiller's mods. So next up is Mara Jade, and this one is going to be really hard to shame because she's sitting at a whopping 370 speed. There are a few different things your Mara Jade is going to want for a Starkiller team, but speed is at the highest priority, and you really don't sacrifice anything else. Potency actually is a little bit useful on her, kind of contrary to what we just said, and the reason why is if you look at her ultimate Predator special, which she's going to open up with, especially on defense, and you're probably going to do this on offense too, she's going to dispel all buffs and inflict stun and vulnerable for one turn on target, then deal special damage and inflict tenacity down. Basically, the way this reads, and props to CG, the way the kit reads is actually the way it functions in this case. You're gonna stun first and then apply tenacity down next, which means your raw potency for Mara Jade on that very first hit actually does matter. This is going to come into play when someone, let's say you leave Starkiller on defense in 3v3, when someone takes in their Wampa who has increased tenacity, when Mara goes first, if she has enough potency, she can stun Wampa out the gate, and then he is just dead in the water because he can't counter and gain turn meter when he's stunned. So, or really counter and therefore gain turn meter. But yeah, so potency does matter a little bit on her. We do have a potency cross. A potency set in addition to it would be ideal, but honestly, again, you're trying to hit this number. Crit chance, the crit chance set to me doesn't matter at all to her. She inflicts vulnerable on the enemy, which makes sure they can always be crit if they don't have crit immunity. So crit chance set is kind of pointless, but at the same time, these are plus 27s. I'm going to take a wild guess and say these mods aren't here because they're a crit chance set, but they're here because they're plus 27. So overall, Mara Jade, hard to shame. If you could swap out the crit chance, if you have, a potency set lying around 2 plus 27s to replace the crit chance, do it. If not, I think you're just gonna have to live with it, and so are we. So next up, we're gonna actually be checking out the unaligned force user category to talk about Starkiller. Starkiller appears to be really stinking bombing, but there's something that can be said about this. So he's at 308 speed right now, which is actually, in my opinion, if you're looking for the ideal Starkiller modding, this is way too fast. And the reason why is because how he interacts with the rest of the team when he uses his specials, you actually want him, bear with me here for a minute, you actually want him to be the slowest on the team. And the reason why is because when he goes and uses a special, number one, you want both Visas and Emperor Palpatine to have taken turns. Why? Because you want them to have used their offense up as well as defense penetration up on their first move, so that once Starkiller really gets going, he can hit them as hard as stinking possible. On top of that, it's really beneficial if your tank, and I think Old Ben is the one that we're going to be going with for this comp, if they go directly after you, so let's say you're at 308 speed and they're at 260 or something like that, they're immediately burning through one of their turns of damage immunity. So again, if we're trying to build the optimal one, I won't lie, this Starkiller has probably killed about 100 rays so far, or something ridiculous like that. You don't necessarily have to have perfect modding to get all the things to work, but if you're looking for the optimal build, that is the way to do it. And it doesn't mean he needs to be slow, it just means that you want everyone faster than him. I think mine runs about 360, a 350 is a good benchmark. And then what you do, and this doesn't really apply to this player that we're trying to shame here, but what you do with those extra areas is instead of filling them with speed, you fill them with offense. And this doesn't really apply. So if we look at his arrow here, ideally what I would want to see is an offense primary here. The offense primary is already sitting down here. 6% is, I mean, that's pretty darn stinking close to 8%. Yes, ideally, this would be an offense primary. Does it need to be? Probably not. Like, that's close enough. The same can probably be said about the cross. I really prefer offense primary here as well. But if you look down here, I mean, that's another 5% on offense. These are not, and he can use health. The reason why I don't love, and this isn't the case for our player here, the reason why I don't love full health build for him, because even if you go that far, when you get to his special, or I guess the ultimate that's not technically an ultimate, where he brings the house or really brings the Star Destroyer down on your enemies, it's not enough to actually kill a Galactic Legend, which is, pathetic as that seems. That's really why you would do it, because otherwise it's already going to kill most of everything else, and on top of that, you're stunning and healing, and there's tons of other good uses. Basically, what I'm saying is you don't want to sacrifice all of his offense for health that wasn't really going to make a difference in the first place. So offense set is definitely the way to go. So is a crit damage triangle. Very good on that account, because again, when Palpatine is calling him to assist, the real damage dealer for the team is not this ability. It's not this ability. It's this ability. It's his basic, and you want that to hit as much as possible. So it's not going to be the Star Destroyer. It's going to be Imbued Lightsaber Strike. Fun word. All right, so that is Starkiller. Very close. I would prefer him slower than the rest of the team, but here's where we're at. And next up is going to be Visas herself. Visas, really not a lot to complain about. Health is key on her because she is a healer, so there's a lot of things that benefit her in that way. I do love defense sets, though. I really love defense sets. They just make her so much harder to kill. Really, any character harder to kill. So I'm not going to nitpick about that. I actually like that quite a bit. Even though health might be ideal, I love defense sets. And overall, she's at a good speed, and this is really where you kind of want her. Again, if we can get Starkiller down to that about 450, 460 range, she'll go before. She will get defense penetration going on the entire team, and then we'll, just do a whole lot of damage with Starkiller with his basic and Emperor Palpatine calling him in and all that fun stuff. So overall, very good here. Not a whole lot to complain about. Decent speeds. Health sets make her tanky again. You do not want her getting yeeted by a Ray Whirlwind or anything of the sort. Really just making her hard to kill if someone's trying to beat her with Grievous. And now onto our final character, where we're actually going to have a little bit of a different take. For those of you who watched the Jedi Knight Luke video against SLKR, we kind of trash-talked potency on Old Ben because of the way the team is set up with Bastila and Jedi Knight Rabbit. The team gets a ton of potency. Really not entirely the case in this tense. And I don't hate potency. I would probably still want protection a little bit more. You want Old Ben to survive as much as possible. And the reason why potency isn't that clutch is, if you remember back, I don't know, like 9 minutes earlier in the video, we kind of made the point that the entire team has tenacity down. So if these things are going to land, they're going to land. I mean, they can actually still be resisted by that 50% chance or whatever, but potency modding doesn't mitigate any of that. So defense sets would actually be pretty cool here. So would protection primaries. And then again, this is kind of irrelevant because we're doing with a 300 speed Starkiller. What would be cool is if he was probably again in the 260, 270 range. Starkiller could go before, and then he could get his 2 full turns of damage immunity on himself. So Overall, we're pretty darn close to ideal here. I guarantee you this team is currently functional. But again, if we're going to try to shame, we are going to try to shame. So overall, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's another counter out there where it's actually beneficial to have in this order. And I know there are even other comps, so maybe that does change things too. I think specifically with Savage, actually, in 3-3 can be nice to have a really fast Starkiller. But until the next time, thank you for watching, and as always, stay awesome.